To speak on how to unlock or how, initiative can be put in place to unlock Nigerian youth potential for economic growth, uh, which can also translate to addressing youth unemployment and also as well as youth empowerment and job creation. I have in the studio an industrial psychologist, Oladele Peter Olusokomi. You're welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, beautiful. Well, let's begin with you maybe giving us an insight with, or your assessment with how youth, or what empowerment has, with what we have, the present administration's effort to actually address youth unemployment and to empower the youth, looking at the youth population we have in the country.
Right. I think the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has rolled out a lot of initiatives to, encourage the youth, both in school and outside school, and then to address the unemployment, which has been going on for a while. And even the past administration also rolled out some other initiatives. But I think as a youth, we make up close to 70% of the population of Nigeria. And then we are the future and the present of this of the country. I think some of the initiatives in place should be well monitored, like the loan for students, like the formerly there was an Empower before. Smedan is doing a lot of things as well, and I think government should look into ways to which youth and all those programs are youth oriented, but they should make sure that it is those that really needs it. And which is one of our problems in Nigeria in addressing issues. There are a lot of policies that goes out, a lot of initiatives, but they are not well monitored, they are not well executed, because most of the time, don't let me say some of the time, most of the time, all those policies and programs do not go straight to the target audience, which are the youth and the unemployed youth. It has some of these things have been turned to political tools, and it should not be so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, in your own opinion, what do you think needs to be put in place to make sure that the Nigerian youth are prepared to drive our economy today?
I think empowering the youth and creating an enabling environment for businesses. I think MSMEs, which are small and medium scale businesses, are mostly funded by youths. So I think government creating an enabling environment for those businesses is a right way for us to help the youth drive the economy. When the environment is conducive for small business to grow, like making sure there's constant light, making sure there is loan funding, because one of the major challenges with small businesses in Nigeria is always funding. I know Bank of Industry and Smedan and other maybe the Ministry of Youth are doing a lot to make sure that youth with small businesses, both small and medium businesses, can we have access to funding. I think one of the major problems is that the steps and the requirements and the interest is scary, and then the youth are scared, and small businesses are facing challenges with electricity and other issues. But I think one of the major factors that the government should consider is making sure that there's enough funding, and then there's conducive environment to do the tax reform bill. I saw some areas which I give kudos to, in areas where small businesses were considered. Thank you.
Okay. You talked about, let me pick on what you've just said earlier. You said that you believe that Ministry of Youth and other development partners are actually doing a lot to, train and empower our youth. But for you, which one stands out? And what makes you think that, how can we replicate such successes to other sectors as well, as much as being inclusive when it comes to actually youth development?
Thank you. Smedan is giving out loans to small businesses, and they also train them and how to manage. I think it stands out for me, but I think they should actually make it bigger. Maybe we appeal to the president to make that bigger, so that a lot of businesses, and then it should not be centralized. It should be taken to rural areas, you know, where youths are struggling. It should be taken to agricultural sector as well. We should be encouraged in those areas. I think it stands out, the Smedan loan to small businesses is a welcome development, and they also trained you so that you don't just collect money and then, because a lot of programs since this Fourth Republic or so, a lot of programs were put in place, but you know, the youth most times collect the money and then they just vanish without doing.
So what do you think should be done about that? Because there should be some sort of feedback mechanism so that we'll be able to like somehow realign and see how we can address this issue. So what do you think should be done about that?
Like I said, every program, every policy should have a monitoring and evaluation committee. There should be a committee in place, put in place, to make sure that all these policies, all these programs first get to the target audience. 2, they should make sure that it's productive, because when you put a program in place and you don't assess it, you don't evaluate it, you don't look at the implementation processes, then it might fail. So I think the first thing should be, when any program is being rolled out, after some maybe a year or 6 months, a committee should be, you know, bring up within the program to make sure that these policies are well implemented, 1, to evaluate the impact, 2, then to see the productivity, because you know it might be well implemented, but it's not productive. So I think majorly we should set up a monitoring and evaluation committee to look into all the policies and to give feedback to both government and those in charge. Thank you.
Okay, there's this also issue of budgeting. Right now, I think the budget exercise is going on in the National Assembly, and there's this issue of how much that has been allocated to the youth ministry. We are talking about around 17 billion naira. Do you think that can actually, you know, address some of the aspirations of the population of over 60% of youth we have in the country?
Speaking fairly to that, that is not enough. I think the Ministry of Youth should be well funded. If government is really interested in, you know, driving the economy and giving this country a greater future, I think one of the major ministries that should be considered is both the education ministry, the sports ministry, and that of youth. I think the fundings are not enough to execute a lot of, you know, youth-driven programs, because we need to move away from our set of, you know, educational system whereby you just go to school, you cram theoretical knowledge. We need to start introducing practical knowledge to us. So I think both the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Youth needs enough funding. I don't think that 17 billion will do anything.
Okay, so it should be jacked up. Is
really,
it an appeal?
Yes, I think I'm appealing to the president and those in charge of budgeting that the Ministry of Youth and Education should be well funded. We need a lot of funding in those areas, because that is what will drive the country forward. The youth makes up the majority population, and then SMEs, small and medium businesses are like 40%. And I'm sure if we have dry statistics, out of that 40%, from that 40%, the youth will have like 70 to 60% of that total MSMEs. So I think funding is a very germane part of, you know, Ministry of Youth and Ministry of Education. So I'm appealing to Mr. President, sir. I know you have the youth at heart. Based on the numbers of people you appointed as youth into this your government, I'm also appealing to you, sir, that you should please make sure that funding is available for Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Education. Thank you, sir.
Okay, there's this program on One Youth, Two Skills. I believe you must have heard of it. What do you make of this particular initiative? And do you think that this can actually address some of the youth challenges that we're facing as a country today?
I strongly believe that that will do us a lot of good. One youth, two skill. The world has moved away from just, you know, going to school, graduating with degrees, and then, you know, coming to the society looking for a job. But when you have a skill, you know, or two, you'll be able to, you know, initiate and even employ people. So I think it's a very good initiative, which I think should be well implemented and should be evaluated in the process as well, so that, you know, it gives us what we want, so that it will be something that is productive. It's something that will, you know, enhance both the economy and the growth of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Oladele Peter Shokomi. It's a pleasure having
Thank you very
you on the
much.
program. Okay, now